Hey guys, we're in Tulsa, Oklahoma today for TMA Systems UC23 event. Walker's keynote address will be starting very shortly, where he'll be covering industrial automation tools, IoT, and machine learning and AI applications for areas outside manufacturing. Let's jump right into it. Today's my sister's birthday, and I totally forgot until I looked up and I saw October 3rd. Yeah, so it looks like I'll be making a phone call on the way home. Yeah.
Today it's my pleasure to introduce a keynote speaker to our user conference event. He's the president and solutions architect at 4.0 Solutions, and he's the board chairman at Intellic Integration out of Dallas, Texas. And without further ado, Mr. Walker Reynolds.
Thank you. Has anybody here heard me speak before or watched any of our videos? Okay, just one person. Great. You guys, so that's not normal. Most of the time when I speak, probably half the room are people who follow us. And I generally work in manufacturing, so this is a different speech that I'm going to give today. I might use choice language during my presentation, so if that's going to offend anybody, probably go to a different session. Okay, but let's start with the question. Who here, it's actually a two-part question. Number one, if you're in healthcare, raise your hand. I need everybody to raise their hand at least once. So if you're in healthcare, raise your hand. All right, if you're in higher ed, raise your hand. Okay, so most of you are in higher ed, all right? And is there any other industry represented other than healthcare and higher ed? But is it fair to say that everyone here falls under the maintenance sphere for building automation primarily? Okay, great. I'm not going to talk about building automation. So I'm actually going to talk about a concept a little bit higher than that applies to building automation. I got adopted when I was 7, and I grew up in upstate New York in the 1980s, so in the Northeast, at a time when manufacturing left. So I saw all of my friends, their parents lose their manufacturing jobs. I watched the middle class just like evaporate. People went from living in middle class and upper middle class homes to working in gas stations and living in trailers. And that's like literally what my childhood was. But why is that? You know, I thought that we lost manufacturing jobs in the Northeast because companies were greedy. Like, I grew up in a trailer park. I learned that it wasn't corporate greed that got rid of middle class jobs. What it was in the United States in 1969 and all over the world, the third industrial revolution started, 1969. Does anybody know what happened in 1969 to start the third industrial revolution? It was not the moon landing. Who here has heard of the term PLC? Okay, the first PLC came out in 1969, okay? And what did the PLC do? Okay, think about that. You guys are in maintenance, you have air handlers on the roof. You may have a cabinet the size of that whole wall responsible for controlling just an air handler. A PLC turned that space into a computer about this big with just inputs and outputs. In the United States, we didn't adopt that technology. We didn't start adopting that technology en masse until late in the 1980s. But do you know who did? The Germans and the Japanese. So we have a room full of people with no digital strategy statements, whether you work in higher ed, healthcare, transportation, doesn't matter. We have a room full of people with no digital strategy statement, right? Okay, so the call to action at the end is to go back to your organizations and ask a very simple question. What is our digital strategy? Okay? Everything I talk about between now and the end is in service of that message. Let's start with a couple of definitions. The industrial Internet of Things. Can somebody tell me what the definition of IIoT is? Right, so the Internet of Things, right now there's an access point in this room. Okay? So we'll call this the intranet of things. All of you who are on the Wi-Fi, you are on whatever device you have connected to the Wi-Fi or to the network is a thing in the intranet of things. The industrial Internet of Things is specifically for manufacturers, okay, and industry. Number 2, Industry 4, what is that? The fourth industrial revolution. In the United States, Industry 4 and fourth industrial revolution, they're the same thing. In Germany, they're not. In EU, they're not. In EU, Industry 4 is actually a standard that they wrote in 2012 and they presented at Hannover Messe that didn't work. It was a theory that just didn't apply. But what is the fourth industrial revolution? If the third industrial revolution was what? It was PLCs, right? It was PLCs. It was automation of industrial processes, right? So all the air handlers, Johnson controls, all that stuff, that is all a manifestation of the third industrial revolution. It's the automation of industrial processes. What's the fourth industrial revolution, which we're in right now?
AI.
That's actually the fifth industrial revolution, which started last November. The fourth industrial revolution, what's that? Right. What it is the fourth industrial revolution is the automation of business processes using smart technology. Okay, so what are business processes? CMMS is a business process. Okay, the business process is we have a failure or we want to predict failure, and how do we manage mitigation of failure and the addressing of failure? That's a fourth industrial revolution business process. Okay, so if you're using a digital CMMS system like Web TMA, then you are using an Industry 4 product. All right, digital transformation, what's that? You guys have heard these terms, I'm assuming, right? So what is digital transformation? It's the process of taking a company from being one who has adopted the third industrial revolution technology, like PLCs, and becoming a Industry 4 company where I've automated business processes. It is a very, very difficult process for organizations. It's incredibly difficult. It's not easy. Only 1 in 12 are successful. Why? So the question is, why is digital transformation difficult? This is why. Let me zoom out here real quick. Is everybody familiar with the technology S-curve? Continuous improvement, heard that term? Okay, that's the technology S-curve. That little S down here, this is our return on investment as we're investing dollars in improving our process. And then it becomes an exponential return and then it flattens, okay? So you guys right now want to know, how can you reduce cost using technology, right? How can we speed up? You guys should be familiar with terms like MTTR, mean time between failure, MTBF, and mean time to repair, right? Those are important KPIs if you're in maintenance. You guys want to make mean time between failure really, really long, and you want to make mean time to repair really, really short. How do you do that? The way you're currently doing it is down here. You're trying to become better and better at manual processes. Human being enters in the work order, deploys the work order, electrician gets the work order, electrician goes and fixes whatever the problem is, they go back and they manually input and they close the work order. How does Tesla do it? Does a human being open a work order? No, that's preposterous. Elon Musk would fire the entire team. All right, let's go back to this. Why is it hard? It's because of this. So this is called, if you guys are familiar with Kaizen, continuous improvement, it's a Japanese form of continuous improvement. That lighthouse there is called Kaikaku. So while we're within an industrial revolution, it's same game, same rules. Okay, we just get better and better. We whittle down, gradual incremental improvement. And then something happens that changes the game, right? That's groundbreaking innovation. That's where that lighthouse is. The reason digital transformation is difficult, lots of reasons. Okay, you have cavemen, citizens against virtually everything. You have people who are on the take. I hate to break the news to you, in this industry, it's incredibly corrupt. Okay, I know lots of guys who have had vacation homes built by vendors. Okay, it is very, very common. People's hands get greased all the time, so corruption's a huge piece of it. But the big problem is transformative leadership. Who runs your organizations? Like, what are the credentials of the people who run your organizations? And the answer is, they're almost certainly MBAs. They almost certainly come from finance, business development, or accounting. The reason digital transformation is difficult is because organizations don't change their leadership first. You need transformative and disruptive leadership at the top. That's why you have to ask the question, what is our digital strategy? There are a lot of organizations that attempt digital transformation, and they fail. 11 out of 12 fail. Why? Okay, well, first they start with the wrong leadership, number one. Number two, they don't start bottom up. Okay, so we have a philosophy that we teach, which is that digital transformation is all about unlocking potential on the front line. The smartest people in any organization are who? And by smart, I mean the people who know what the problems are. They're all the frontline people. When I go in front of a board of directors, okay, and I talk to lots of C-suite, the very first question I ask them is, what are your values? What do you stand for? If they give me a dead look in their eyes or whatever, like, what do you mean values? I just leave. My team sits there and I just leave. Because I'm not gonna work with an organization that doesn't have a higher purpose other than the bottom line, number one. Number two, I say, who are the smartest people in your organization? And if they don't immediately say the frontline worker, I also leave. Okay? Digital transformation is about taking all the spreadsheets that you guys have all built, whatever tools you've built. If you built them in MATLAB, Excel, whatever it is, in a Python IDE, whatever you've developed, and turning that into scale for the business. You solve your problems using digital tools in service of solving the business's problems. All of you guys here want to figure out, you probably care about your companies, but you also want to make your job easier. Digital transformation is about giving you the tools to make your job easier in service of saving the business money. Let me ask you this question. Why is Tesla awesome? Like, everybody agrees Tesla is awesome. I'm going to use Tesla as an example because they're our customer and they let us mention their name. But why is Tesla awesome? First off, does everybody agree that Tesla is awesome? Or do you guys think it's all hype? Nobody? There's not one person who thinks Tesla's hype. Okay, hype? You over here? I assure you, Tesla is the most groundbreaking company that has ever existed. It's not even close. Not even close. Jim Farley, who is the CEO of Ford, went on a podcast in August, and what did he say? Did anybody see this? You can look it up, Jim Farley, Gears and something. He said, we lost. We can't beat Tesla. That's what he said. And when he was asked why, he said, because they took the right approach 12 years ago and we didn't. All of our vendors own our intellectual property. They own all of their intellectual property. We don't. Bosch owns the electronic control module. We do not own it. And for 8 more years, we don't have access to the data inside the ECM on any of our vehicles. And I'm going to talk about data today, the value of data. You want to know what Tesla's awesome? Because Tesla's not a car company. They're a data company. Data is their primary commodity. Does anybody know what data is? What is data? Right, a data is an event. It's something that happened and when. You can't take action on data. It's a rising edge of something or it's a transition. But you cannot take action on data. By itself, data is useless. It has to be combined with context and normalization to be converted into information, which you can take action on. So the dashboards, all of you guys have HMIs and all that kind of stuff, right? Okay, if you were to look at just a number on a screen, does it mean anything? If it doesn't have a label to tell you what the number means, it's useless. If you see a temperature of 190 degrees, does that mean anything to you? If you don't know which temperature it is, right, information is taking time series data, right? Taking a temperature and plotting it over time, that's information. I can do something with that. You know what Tesla does? They turn everything into a digital data point, everything. I drive a Model S, Jared drives a Model 3. I put my money where my mouth is, okay? This is my second Tesla. I had a Model 3 and then I bought a Model S. I've had my car nearly 2 years. It has never gone to the shop. It has been updated 52 times as of today. Out of the 52 times, there are 111 new features on the car. 111. How many here drive a Ford pickup truck or a Toyota Camry or a Honda Accord or enter in any car that is not a Tesla? It is literally the same car you drove off the lot whenever you drove it off the lot. Yes, Tesla is awesome. Hey, moreover, my car drives me to work. And the only thing I have to do is put my hand on the wheel. That's it. The Model Y is the best-selling car in the world as of first quarter of this year. Do you know when the last time a Toyota wasn't the best-selling car in the world? Before January of this year. Almost 25 years ago. For 25 years in a row, a Toyota was the best-selling car in the world. Before that, it was the Chevy Lumina. Before that, it was the Honda Accord. And now it's the Model Y, and Tesla continues to just pull away. Why? Because they turn data into information to make products that get better after customers buy them. There is no way for Ford or General Motors to compete with a company like Tesla. Why is Amazon awesome? Everybody agrees Amazon is awesome, right? If I put everybody in this room and I say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to create a company where we are going to deliver any product that anyone wants at the absolute best price to 99% of Americans in 48 hours or less. How do we do it? All you smart people. Let's whiteboard it. How do we achieve that? So large digital footprint, customer insights, you do something with it. So that's a abstracted, we'll get a little more into detail on how they do it. Do you know how Walmart tried to do it and Target tried to do it? You know how they tried to do it? They tried to put distribution centers everywhere. Okay, that's what they tried to do. It was like 20 to 1. 20 Walmart distribution centers to every one Amazon distribution center. And yet they never even came close. The best that they could count on for 99% of the time was 7 days. How does Amazon do it? This will blow your mind. If you haven't heard this before, it will blow your mind. They predict what you're going to buy 6 weeks before you buy it. How do they predict what you're going to buy 6 weeks from now? You don't know what you're going to buy 6 weeks from now. How do they know?
It's all the data they collect from your phones, your internet, what
Right.
you look at. Everything's gathered now.
So what do they do with that? They use software to find patterns in data we cannot see with the naked eye. All you smart people who look at trends and all that kind of stuff, software can find patterns in data we can't see. Okay, I'm going to show you a 5-minute clip of a product we developed. So we used vision technology to develop a product that can predict someone's 1 rep max. So that is, what is it you can actually lift? And then we went to the Shaw Classic a year and a half ago, and we predicted a world record 5 rounds before it happened. And then 3 weeks ago, we did the same thing at the Shaw Classic in August, and we predicted the top 3 finishers in order from the first round. And then just 3 weeks ago, we were in Orlando, and we predicted that Dimitar Savatinov would break the American deadlift record 2 rounds before he did so. Vision technology, we didn't touch him. All we did was use data to predict the future. So your goal, you want to know how you save money with Industry 4 and with technology? You predict the future. That's what you do. Do you know that at Tesla today, they are not reacting to problems that came up today? They are mitigating problems they predict will happen 6 weeks from now. And how do you compete with that? Okay, in higher education, there is no industry in the United States that's in more trouble than higher education. None. Okay, and you should see the numbers. If you work in higher ed, you should be terrified. 12 years from now, the number of students, you got 10,000 students at your university today, 12 years from now it'll be 4,000. Let's talk about data information, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. What is machine learning and artificial intelligence? So let's start with machine learning. Machine learning is computers learning from data. That's all it is. Okay, it's looking at massive amounts of data and learning from it. That's it. So every event, you're in transportation, you're in healthcare, you open work orders, you have ad hoc defined parameters, but you also have homogeneous parameters which come from the web TMA platform. One of the advantages of a platform like that is that they can run models against everyone's data and improve everyone's experience. But you need to be doing the same thing internally. And where does that start? With a digital strategy. What is artificial intelligence? It is computers mimicking human intelligence. Human beings still supervise the recommendations of computers that mimic human intelligence. Human beings do that. Human beings decide whether or not to execute what an artificial intelligence model recommends you do. Is anybody here using machine learning and artificial intelligence at all? Who here has a YouTube channel? Anybody here have a YouTube channel? We use a product called vidIQ, which is artificial intelligence that takes a look at our video, takes a look at our analytics, and it tells us how to update the title, tells us when to post. All of that's artificial intelligence. See this picture right here? A lot of people ask me, why do I use that picture? Part of it's an illustration. But is that a photo of me? But can you all tell that that's me? Okay, why would we do that? What's that? Yeah, artificial intelligence made that from 20 selfies of me. But why do we use that? Do you know how long it takes for you to take a good picture? Pull out your phone. If you're not the type of person who deletes your photos, pull out your phone and look at all the selfies you've taken of yourself that you didn't use. Does anybody have the average idea how long it takes? How many photos it takes to get the right photo?
7.
What's that?
7.
It's 37, actually. So it's 37 to the right photo. Well, what I did was I used 20 photos that I didn't like to create the perfect photo using artificial intelligence. That took 3 minutes. So now what I did was I didn't have to take 37 photos. It took 3 minutes to get that up there. Anybody here use ChatGPT? Everybody better be raising their hands. Okay. Is it really that? Is it really only 5? If you use ChatGPT, raise your hand, please. Okay, so it's a third of the room. That needs to change. Action item number 2. When you leave here, you need to start using ChatGPT now. ChatGPT is artificial intelligence. It's a large language learning model that you can prompt it to be whatever you want it to be, okay? And then you can ask it questions or you can give it instructions and it can spit things out. For example, Jared over here, I use this example all the time. Jared is 19 years old. Okay, he is one of 25 employees at 4.0 Solutions and Intellic Integration. He makes $52,000 a year. Where do you think he ranks out of 25 employees in total efficiency? So if I were to measure his output per hour and compare it to everyone else in the company, he makes $52,000 a year, which is the lowest paid person in any of my companies. Where is his level of efficiency? You guess, if you were to guess. He's number 1, it's not even close. It's 6-1. The next closest person is 1/6 the efficiency. How does he do that? He uses artificial intelligence to make him a superhuman. He uses ChatGPT to do it. On a Monday night, in 2 hours, he became general counsel for our company. He did an exercise. Using ChatGPT, he became general counsel for our company. He's 19 years old with an engineering degree. On day 2, he became our human resources director. On day 3, he became our operations manager. 6 total hours. When we went and looked at the total amount of work that he did in a 6-hour window, it was 600 to 6. 600 to 6. If you're not using ChatGPT, you're not going to be working very long. I assure you. Every single person in my company is mandated to have a ChatGPT window open all day long. You are an AI supervisor. Period. There is no way to compete. The vision system that I'm going to show you here in a second, it took me 8 months to write that code 2 years ago. It took me 40 hours in February using ChatGPT. 8 months to 40 hours. When it came to an automation project, one that we billed 160 hours on the previous year, it took 8 hours. Okay? How is this going to play out in what you guys do? How can I save money? Well, there is I am sure at some point you guys will be integrating a ChatGPT interface into your CMMS, the Director of Engineering. I'm assuming that's in your roadmap somewhere, right? Okay, it is. All right. Here's why. Here's why this is valuable. ChatGPT gives you the ability. There's a product in Boston called Tulip. It's an operations platform. It's not a CMMS. It's a frontline. They have a thing called Frontline Copilot that they just launched 2 weeks ago. And it goes to operators on the plant floor and manufacturers. Any operator can walk up to their interface and they can say, give me the production for this cell every other Wednesday for the last 12 weeks, and I want you to pivot the data this way and give me this chart. And ChatGPT just does it. It turns every person into a data analyst. It turns every person into a data operations engineer. It turns every single human being in your organization who has access to that front end that is trained on your data into a superhuman. Okay, so the goal here today, when you guys come here, I asked who has a digital strategy, and we got one decent start. Everybody else in the room, no digital strategy. Okay, so number 1, when you guys leave here today, what is the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go to the highest ranking person in your organization, and you're going to ask this question. What is our digital strategy? Okay, what is our plan to make data a commodity? What is our plan to use computers to learn from our data? Okay? It's not your job to know how to do that. Okay? Companies like TMA are going to enable you to do that through their platforms, through Honeywell's platform, through Johnson Controls platform, okay, through many other platforms. Number 2, those of you who did not raise your hand on ChatGPT, if there's anything I can implore you to do, it is tonight. Tonight. The world changed last November. It changed. Okay, generative AI is real, and it has fundamentally changed our world. There's no way you can compete with someone in your organization who's using ChatGPT. You're not that good. I promise you. So all of you are in maintenance, right? Everyone here is in some type of maintenance capacity, right? You either support maintenance, you're in planning, but you're in the, I mean, if you're at a CMMS conference, I hope you're in maintenance, okay? Is that fair to, all right. Does maintenance have a lot of problems? Yes. All right, the answer to your question is you don't fight theoretical battles, you win results wars. So what you do is you educate yourself on the technology, okay? So if you want to know how you can do that, you can start by you can come to my LinkedIn, or you can go to our 4.0 Solutions YouTube channel. There's all sorts of videos on what Industry 4 is, digital transformation, et cetera. You can lean into your vendors. But I talked to the president and the director of engineering before I spoke, asking about the roadmap and what is their vision for how are they going to take all this data that's in their platform and turn it into value for their customers. And they have a plan, and that plan is sound. I don't know if I'm allowed to share that plan, so I'm not going to. Okay? That's number one, educate yourself, and then start solving problems for yourself using technology. Probably what this guy's doing over here, okay? Number two, you ask the question, what is our digital strategy? Okay? That you ask that question. You all use Excel, right? Excel, you know what Excel is? It's a platform for solving problems. So if you want to know what an organization's problems are, all you have to do is ask for all the spreadsheets. Give me all the spreadsheets. And then I go, what problem are you trying to solve with this? And here's how you do it in a common infrastructure, in a platform where you can use computers to learn from that data, and you can use artificial intelligence to mimic human intelligence. There's no way in a 45-minute presentation that I can teach all the things that must be learned. There are people in our mastermind program who have been in that program for 3 years, 4 hours every single month. Okay? It is a long process, but what I wanted to show you is this. This is what the process looks like. Okay, right here, the colored, becoming a smart organization is really those simple steps. Connecting to everything, so all the digital data. So let's say in the old days when I worked in a printing facility, we had a Johnson Controls, we used Johnson Controls for our HVAC system, and I worked in maintenance at the time. This was before I was an engineer. And their platform was like a DOS-based interface, right? This is 23 years ago. That isn't how Johnson Controls manages building automation today, right? The back end is SQL-based. They have all sorts of connectors for you to be able to connect to that data, okay? And that data is the most valuable commodity in your business. You have to predict the future. You have to predict the future. You know how digitally mature your organization is based on how you operate. Am I solving problems that popped up today, or are we solving problems that we predict are going to show up weeks from now? That's the bifurcation, that's the binary. But the process is very simple. You connect to everything, you collect absolutely everything, and you store everything. That's the first step. So the question is, okay, what intelligence do we have on our building automation systems? And how do I connect to it? And then how do I collect everything? And then how do I store it? Then you analyze and visualize. That's going to be like your HMIs and stuff, okay, your dashboards. You're going to analyze the data, turn it into information, you're going to visualize it. But then your data scientists, your data analysts, we have a data scientist on our team, they go to that data and they try to find patterns in that data. Okay, they try to predict outcomes, they report what those outcomes will be, and then they solve them. That's the process. Okay, this is an introduction to what it is you must be doing. All right, so the 2 action items, what are they? Action item number 1 is digital strategy. Action item number 2 is ChatGPT. If there's anything I impress upon you, you must be using generative AI to do your job. You must. You must. The greatest impact of artificial intelligence is this. I'll leave it with this and then we'll open up to questions. All right? AI is not going to take jobs. There are some jobs that are going to be engineered out. But how many of you have positions you can't fill because you don't have the money to fill them? This is what we see. Because you're paying somebody to flip a box over with their foot, and you have 10 of those people, you can't hire the person in the mid-level like him to analyze your data. That's what actually happens. What artificial intelligence is doing, it's raising the average employable IQ in the United States. What is the average employable IQ today? It's done by the US military. What is the lowest IQ you can hire, Josh?
80.
Okay, it's 80. That means if you have an IQ less than 80, you're not employable. Do you know what it's going to be just a decade from now? 96. Okay? What is the average IQ in the United States? 96. What does that mean? It means 50% of all Americans will be unemployable. That is an empirical certainty.
You don't think AI raises IQ?
Sort of. But you would assume that would happen over generations, right? I mean, for example, these kids, like you guys, young people, you hire young. The biggest problem with young people is what? Like you guys bitch about millennials all the time and stuff? Right, they're too smart.
The pants are too low.
All right, so here's the issue. I'm a smart guy. I have a very high IQ, right? I'm a smart guy from Gen X. I'm a Gen X guy, okay? I'm not even remotely as smart as Jared. At 19, I was not nearly as smart as Jared. And Hayden, his younger brother, I'm not nearly as smart as Hayden is. He's unbelievably gifted. If you look at the average intelligence of young people today, they are so much smarter than we are. Why? Smartphones are what? They are access to all of human knowledge. All human knowledge. At your fingertips. When I tell them that when I had a question, I would have to wait until I went to the library on Sunday. I had a question on Wednesday, and I had to wait until I got to the library on Sunday to answer that question. My kids can't wrap their brains around that.
That's if you could find the book.
That's if you could get it.
Yeah.
And then when I was in college, you know what the number one problem was? I was in a very competitive program. You know what the number one problem I had in our university library? Yeah, it was other students I was competing against taking the books that I needed from the library, taking that knowledge away from me. The answer is they're much smarter than we are. So to answer your question, yes, artificial intelligence makes us all smarter, but it'll be too late. So what happens is with technology, this is a very important point here. If you look at the industrial revolutions, the first industrial revolution was the steam engine. The second industrial revolution was the assembly line. The third industrial revolution was automation of industrial processes. The fourth industrial revolution was the automation of business processes. That's what we're in right now. Actually, we're between fourth and fifth. The fifth industrial revolution is the convergence of artificial intelligence and human intelligence together. Artificial intelligence making us superhumans. That's the fifth industrial revolution. Okay? The biggest challenge is with each technological iteration, it takes half as long. So between the steam engine and the assembly line was how long? Just over 100 years. Between the assembly line and automation, how long? 65 years. Between automation and automation of industry and automation of business, how long? 29 years. Between the fourth industrial revolution and the fifth industrial revolution? 16 years. Technology speeds us up. That's the challenge. The challenge is by the time they get the return on investment, it's too late, right? All right, questions. So we have a online university. If you want to see kind of what the future of education is, you can go to IIoT.university. We run that university. And we partner with brick and mortar schools. And the professors at those schools use our education to augment their education. He literally has his entire class watch our podcast. It's literally the lesson. Okay? The challenge is that higher education moves too slow. Okay? Think about how long, what is being taught in universities. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, how many of you have kids in like high school and middle school, right? Okay? Your kids learn nothing in school other than socialization. They learn absolutely nothing. I wrote my thesis on constructivism. I have a master's in education. I wrote my thesis on constructivism, which is the idea that we create constructs in your brain so that I can use English to teach you math. Okay, that's what I wrote my thesis on. Kids learn nothing in school today. Kids are in school for 6 or 7 hours for something that they could learn in 15 minutes. And higher education does the same thing. Have your classes gotten shorter? Of course not. You threw up a couple of websites. You have people message one another. You have to put in these requirements. No, higher education isn't leveraging digital technology to become better at educating. You know, I own 50 companies. Half those companies are operating companies. That means they have employees. Do you know that we don't even look at someone's degree? We don't even look at their resume until we decide that we're going to hire them. Then we look. It means nothing. I hate to break the news to you. Unless you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor, means nothing. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. And I know that can create like an emotional response, but it doesn't make it not true. Okay? So how does higher education benefit? Okay? Well, the answer is you guys are really the gateway. You're the gateway for transportation. You're the gateway for higher ed. You're the gateway for healthcare. You are. Because it starts at the front line by solving problems with technology, and it starts with asking the right questions. Okay? Anything else? Yep. So the question is, what do you recommend to people who are creating value out of data, but the decision makers aren't acting on that? You're not going to like my answer. Okay, so let me just start with. Most organizations cannot be saved. So one of my key messages to our students is, if you can't fundamentally change your organization, find another organization. You have to. You must. Okay? Don't give up easily. Solve that person's problem. But if they're a caveman, does everybody know what a caveman is? Citizen against virtually everything. You guys are in maintenance. You should definitely know what cavemen are. All right. Solve their problem using technology. Okay, and this is what we teach. I mean, this is a lot of what we teach. This is a process. None of you, maybe this guy over here, and maybe some of you who haven't spoken, maybe you, aren't going to walk out of here and change the world. Okay? This is just, Mao, what is it, Sun Tzu or whatever said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right? This is the single step. Why do I know it's the single step? Because only one of you raised your hand when I asked if you had a digital strategy. That's how I know it's the first step for nearly everyone. The good news is this, and I want to give TMA a plug here. They didn't ask me to do this. I get to say whatever I want in these speeches. They're on the right track. So I work with lots of other CMMS platforms. Okay, we do CMMS integration all the time. I was actually going to tell you a story about how completely transformed their organization by predicting failure, but by converting to digital and integrating their CMMS system with their digital infrastructure, they were able to predict all their failures. All of them. 99.39 total. I was going to tell that whole story. But because only one person raised their hand on digital strategy, we went in a different direction. Okay? But the good news is that TMA Systems is going in the right direction from a digital perspective. And I'm really excited actually to see the roadmap. Okay? And they got the right partnerships. Okay? Any other questions? The answer is start with the domain you have control over, so you don't have to deal with IT. Okay? There's a transformation. I was going to talk about IT too, and I didn't. But most IT departments are security and compliance first and service second. There's a joke. The CTO is a CT-no for most companies, right? That's the joke. If anyone, you know that in the IT department, the word no is prohibited. It is a prohibited word. You cannot say no. You must enable. Okay? Your organizations will get there or they will die. I mean, it's just that, it's that simple. I mean, think about in healthcare, if you're in hospitals and stuff, right? After the, Obamacare, which whether we talk about it as a political hot potato or whatever, one of the good things that came out of Obamacare is you all became the consumer. The human resource manager was the consumer before that. You are all the consumer. You know how much your MRI costs. You know you can get it for $400 cash, or you can get it for $1,200 with your insurance. You didn't know that 15 years ago. So you are all, the healthcare consumer is much more savvy, and they are going to demand things like digital medical records. They're not going to accept the fact that they're going to get their MRI results 3 days from now. They must get them automatically, directly to their smartphone, okay? So the consumer is going to drive that, okay? To answer your question, stick with the domain you have control over, okay? And then you work with partners to fund your solution up front. I've done this a million times for our customers, okay? Where I've paid for the proof of concept myself. You know, up to $300,000 I've spent just to win the results war. And by the way, that is very prevalent today. There's one last thing. There is a process called the Digital Transformation Maturity Assessment. It's a process of assessing where organizations are in terms of their digital maturity. It's called Digital Transformation Maturity Assessment. The short term of it is DTMA. So if you Google that, okay, it is a process for saying where are we now and where do we want to go, where should we start, and what are the hurdles? And it gives you strategy, architecture, minimum technical requirements. I wasn't going to bring that up either, but that's your solution. Okay? All right, any last questions? Give me 90 seconds before you get up, all right? There's a famous story from Steve Jobs from 1983, okay? When Apple developed the first laser printer in 1983. It was called the Laser Writer, okay? And Jobs and all of his team at Apple were trying to figure out how to sell it. Right now, you're trying to figure out how to sell digital transformation, how to sell a digital strategy. Because it's amazing technology and we must do it, right? Okay. They're trying to figure out how to sell the Laser Writer. And all the business development people, all of the product developers, they're all in the room and they're talking about the technology and the print controller, and they're talking about all these value propositions that they want to make to customers. And Jobs stood up and told everyone to shut the fuck up. Excuse my French, but that's what he said. And then he walked over to his Mac and he wrote, "Do you want this?" And then he printed it. And then he picked the page up and he said to the customer sitting at the table, "Do you want this?" That's what digital transformation is. Remember the first, everyone who's old like me, I remember dot matrix printers, okay? When you looked at a dot matrix printer and then you looked at a laser, something that was written on a laser, it was night and day. That's a no-brainer. It doesn't matter if it costs $10,000, it's a no-brainer. If it's $500 for dot matrix and $10,000 for laser, no-brainer. But if you talk about all the awesome technology and you're having these theoretical discussions, you'll get nowhere very fast. That is the concept. Win the results war, don't fight theoretical battles. Start with a digital strategy. If you guys want to learn more, you can go to IIoT.university. There's a free IIoT mini course on there. It's like 10 videos. It does a much more in-depth presentation than what I just did right now. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you. And I only went over by a couple minutes, and that's rare. I normally go way over. Yes. We good? All right, awesome.